Hello and welcome back, listeners, to the Dual Screams. Oh, yes, it is Screams. Spooky season is upon us. We're in October. I love all things scary. And this week with us, I'm like super excited because their game just came out and it's getting like rave reviews on Steam. It's like a 10 out of 10 right now. I'm like amazed. This is incredible. Joining us this week are Abby and Tony as they're learning that their game is a 10 out of 10 on Steam. Creators of Slay the Princess, a choice-driven psychological horror visual novel slash dating sim with the dramatic branching, light RPG elements, and gorgeous, that's me adding to your Steam description, gorgeous hand-penciled art. Guys, welcome
Thank
to the show. And
you.
congrats on the launch, by the way.
Thank you. I'm simultaneously so happy and so tired. But
What's
mostly happy.
What's amazing is like usually when I see like 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 scores for a brand new game, it's always like 10 reviews or 8 reviews. But when I first got the Steam page link to prepare for this interview, it was like 600 something reviews, and now it's like up to 700 plus. So
Yeah.
folks are actively throwing love on your
Yeah,
Steam page.
absolutely blown away by that.
Yeah, it's hard to process,
Yeah,
honestly.
it has
My
instantly
poor-
just become the set of numbers.
My poor ape
Yeah.
brain cannot really quantify it.
No.
Well, I think that's like the reaction enough. Like being speechless is a thing. I kind of want to lead things off with how I was first introduced to this game, like because I've seen the trailers for it, I've seen the videos for it, I follow you guys on Twitter, but when I sat down for the first time to play this game and I saw like the initial text on my screen pop up, I had to stop for a second and take a picture because it just did something in my bones when I read these first words. So I'm just gonna read these words out loud right now. And again, I had no idea that this game would like just totally mind fuck me completely. So thank you and fuck you for that. Okay. Whatever horrors you may find in these dark spaces, have heart to see them through. There are no premature endings. There are no wrong decisions. There are only fresh perspectives and new beginnings. This is a love story. Oh my God. What are you doing to me, guys?
Tony wrote that.
Right off the bat, it's like, again, so let's set this up. It's a very simple premise. You're tasked with slaying this princess to prevent the end of the world, the end times. And, it sounds simple enough. But when I read these words, I feel like there's something so much more that's about to happen in this story. So let's talk about the genesis. Where did this idea come from for Slay the Princess?
Yeah, the idea came from trying to figure out a way to have a side project that was not as resource intensive as Scarlet Hollow, our other game. So like Scarlet Hollow is also a visual novel. That is also just the two of us as the main people working on it, and of course there's like our composer who's Brandon Boone. He's phenomenal, but like the bulk of the full-time work is just us. And something we do in our visual novels is like there's unique sprite sets for pretty much every scene, and we care a lot about making the characters feel like they're living in the environment, which means that Abby draws so much stuff.
Yeah, thousands of drawings.
But like with Scarlet Hollow, because it takes place in the real world, like sometimes you'll have a scene and there's 9 people in it. And we also like when one character talks, it's like we change their sprite to have them talk, and then we have everyone else's sprites changed to react to that. And it's like this huge labor intensive thing. And we were at this point where it was like Scarlet Hollow, it's an early access episodic visual novel. So like it's a little bit of an uphill battle to sell with Steam players. So we were at a point where it was like I was spending so much of my time trying to do marketing to keep us going, and it just felt like, endlessly rolling a boulder up a hill. So had the idea of, well, what if we just, instead of spending all this time trying to talk to publishers and trying to come up with clever things to tweet, just make a second project that I could handle the bulk of the work for, while Abby continues her massive task with Scarlet Hollow. So that became okay, for the first concept, what's something where there's one character on screen, so that minimizes a lot of art there. There's one location, so we don't have to do tons and tons of backgrounds. And if you've played Slay the Princess by the time you're listening to this interview, obviously we did not live up to the minimized scope that we were trying to do when we started. There's 3,300 illustrations in that game. It's mind-bogglingly huge. But it started as just okay, so what's a scenario where we limit the scope of everything so we can quickly do it, and then just kind of push that out in between releases for Scarlet Hollow. And then we made a demo. I think that was, we were playing around with just what's it like to do something under game jam conditions. That first demo was done in a week or two. And then the reception to that was just wildly warm. So then we made it into something bigger.
I just love how this was born out of, hey, this thing we're working on is a lot of work and time consuming. I have an idea. Let's do that again. Let's do more of that. Let's do that times 2. It'll be great. Trust me.
Somehow it worked.
It worked. Don't need a publisher now.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about securing funding to finish Scarlet Hollow. That's for sure.
That is
Thanks, Slay the
incredible.
Princess.
That's amazing. So again, this has allowed you to do Scarlet Hollow in a more full time and without having to worry about getting extra help.
Yeah, we were extremely
funding.
full. Yeah, we were extremely full time, but it was every month sweating about how much money we were making type of full time versus we can just finish the project now, which is great.
I was gonna say, if you're harder for cash, I want to buy the Killer Clowns shirt off of your chest right now. I will pay top dollar for that shirt.
I think
they were from a Spirit Halloween.
Yeah, it was from a Spirit Halloween. They had
Halloween.
a big Killer Clowns promo a couple years ago.
I think that was when Clown era was peaking again.
Because of it.
Oh, like when
back.
Yeah, it was either
it was coming out,
or yeah, or maybe the Terrifiers. I feel like it was before COVID, right?
No.
I would say yes, definitely. I did see it in theaters several times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 2018, 2017.
So this would have been years post it.
You got that. Well, it doesn't matter.
Have you guys seen the Killer Clowns game, by the way? Have you seen it?
Yeah, we watched the trailer. Yeah, I believe the PR firm we worked with for Slay the Princess is doing PR for that game.
Oh, really? Yes, they are. Yeah, our friend Zachary. I get all those emails from him.
Right. Yeah. So that's exciting. I just wear this shirt to everything.
Zachary cracks me up. I'm always
passed a couple days ago. That was recorded a while ago. Don't worry, this shirt has been washed since then. But it was
Scarred for Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about a movie that scared us as kids, which is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That one got me pretty bad when I was 7 or so.
I was always terrified of clowns. I mean, who isn't?
These days, the kids love clowns. Clowns are very in. So
you both are huge horror fans, I take it. You guys are
absolutely
students of horror.
Yes.
When were you first
born
introduced?
and bred in horror?
When were you first introduced? Because my horror like love goes back to when I was a kid, when I had my cousins who lived upstairs from us who were like in their early teens, and I was, 5, 6 years old. They were all about renting like the schlockiest B movie horror from the local video store right across from where we lived. So at a young age, I was, Nightmare on Elm Street, that Driller Killer, Slumber Party Massacre. I think that's what that
Oh yeah,
franchise is called.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, all that stuff. So when
Yeah,
did you
it was
guys
a
first?
family for me as well. Like my dad and my mom are both really into horror.
Oh,
So
I love it.
like my mom loves reading Stephen King books. That's like her favorite author. She has everything by him. My dad and I would just like park on the couch, and Sci-Fi Channel used to just have horror movie marathons every weekend with themes. So we would settle down with those and do nothing else. So just very much came by it natural.
My dad liked to scare me.
So dramatic.
You have to
That's
give me
how-
some
so, yeah,
examples. How would he try to
Sometimes that
scare
would
you?
just be sharing stuff like media that he found scary, often at far too tender an age for me. He would also do a thing where sometimes he would just hide for a long time. Like he'd get home before
Would
me,
just hide.
and he would just hide, and he would wait until I wandered somewhere close enough to the hiding spot, and he would scare the shit out of me just
Like
for
a
funsies.
big giant kid, your dad. I love it.
Yeah.
You're telling this like
He's like,
it's a
I'm gonna
story
play
around a
hide and seek,
campfire.
but he doesn't know what's happening. Only one of us knows that we're playing hide and seek.
He did a great job raising me. I turned out okay. Both my parents did a great job raising me.
I mean,
Yeah, they're very proud. Look at you.
I'm,
Mother's very proud.
playing this game that, I wouldn't imagine I would have like an existential crisis while playing it. And also, like, as I'm playing a game like this, which I would imagine there's a lot of deep themes and, subject matter, and I'm just like, my brain is too smooth to appreciate like half of what's going on right now. Where did
it's...
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
No, go.
No. Oh, sure. No, it's there's a lot of layers to peel
Yes.
back.
There is.
I think it's something where it's like the more time you spend with it, the more different angles you get to view the same scenario from, and it's through the combined knowledge of these perspectives that the themes really manifest themselves.
I love how, since like a single playthrough doesn't last very long, so you don't feel as bad for selecting certain choices. Like my first run, I was like, I'm just gonna be a complete asshole and like go for all the kill options. Like I'm just gonna kill,
Yeah.
and just see where that gets me. And because I don't feel that
Did you
bad. 'cause,
succeed?
I succeeded. Ish.
There you go.
I mean, I thought that once I plunged that knife in her chest, it was like, okay, I'll get a credit roll, and I'd be like, hey, try harder, or just try, try the game again. But then when I saw like it was a chapter 2 and then a chapter 3, I was like, there's more happening. It's not just as clear cut as it's a stab and a done thing. There's other things happening here, and that's where I was like, I have a call in 15 minutes. This is not gonna go well for me because I'm going in with the energy of I'm gushing now because I love what I've experienced, but I want to play more of it at the same time.
Well, that's good. I love that.
Yeah, it really lends itself to replayability, which I like, because again, it's a perfect like on the go game for like a nice, you're sitting in bed, for a nice, you can do a session or two or on the way to work, which I love.
Yeah, that's something we care about a lot with both of our games, where we want it to feel very organically, like no two times that you play it are exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's like every time there's enough variation, big, small, in between, that like you'll find at least something major that's different every single time.
And for it to still feel natural as you're playing it, like to let it feel like you haven't just made the wrong choice, but you have made an interesting choice.
Part of the reason we made that splash screen you quoted at the beginning of this, where it was like, really wanting to prime people not to metagame their decisions.
Yeah, not to think that the goal of the game is just to get a very good outcome, and if you get anything that seems like a bad outcome, that you have to start over, because I think some people were under that impression perhaps that they had made a wrong choice at some point because the princess became different.
Became different.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's like I think some of the best narrative design is stuff where every option has its merits, and you can't cleanly go in and make a chart of, if I do these things in this exact order, everything works out perfectly. Because like, even if you put so much labor into all of the alternatives when you write something like that, I feel like just the nature of having like a golden ending or just an outcome in a scenario that's better than others, it means you almost might as well not have written the other things. Because people are always going to look up guides. They'll maybe pick the one that isn't the best one and be like, this wasn't the best, and then they'll reload, where it's like, we want to make sure that whenever people make a decision, they just keep moving forward from there, and that even if it feels bad on some level, it's still their decision, they made it, and they're standing by it. But in this one in particular, the violence in the game and the dramatic deviation in outcomes meant that we felt like, all right, when we boot it up, we need to explicitly tell people, no, just keep playing, just please just keep playing.
Yeah, and I often detest like any high amount of choice in the game, because again, my brain always goes to, is this the best choice? Because my gamer brain is always like, is what I'm doing the best thing for my character for this playthrough? Because I want to just do a one shot, get the whole thing done with the best equipment, the best ending, the best, no one should hate me when this is all said and done. But this, I was acting purely on instinct. I knew that I wanted to, like, okay, I'll go in, that I want to kill her.
Sure.
But it's funny how even as I had that in my mind, there's still stumbling blocks along the way, because there's all these voices just in your ear, like at all times, chatting away. And it's like with different, opinions and feedback, and you should do this, and no, you should do that. And then there's the narrator, which is another layer to this mystery. And it's just, you really can't have like an agenda going in. You just have to just act on instinct and what's happening in the current moment, because I was second guessing every decision I made, even though I wanted to kill that bitch from the get-go. So we talked about how this came to be, but what were some of the inspirations behind like the princess character and her sort of her characteristics and her demeanor, and then the hero character and all these voices that you come across? Where do all of those elements come from? Or just like you're telling your own marriage story through this game?
yeah. I think we can lightly talk like loose spoilers for stuff people figured out.
It's been out for a bit, right? Was it a day or two?
Yeah. So like,
and this post next week, so we're fine.
Right, yeah. So it's like
or tomorrow, so yeah, never mind.
Yeah. At like the core functional baseline of how the princess functions, she is a reflection of your beliefs and your perception. So that's kind of how she's written, of course. It's like she's not quite a blank slate. Like she does have a baseline of desires and wants and self-interest, but it's generally, she's always presented as a reflection of the choices you have made up until that point, right? So it's like in chapter 1, if you go down with the knife, she is sharper, she seems more hostile, she seems a little more dangerous. If you go down without it, she's a little meeker, a little more demure. She plays the part of a damsel in distress a little more, because that's kind of the direction you're moving in. And because like this is part of how she functions, the voices that we added were actually like this necessary mechanic, because we can't with like a little Ren'Py visual novel delve directly into a player's brain and be like, I know exactly what you're thinking right now, and I'm showing it to you. So instead, they kind of function as this baseline of, now you have some intrusive thoughts, and your thoughts react to your decisions, and they also, in their reactions, define on some slight level what you're thinking, so the game can react to it. And I think there's some very bluntly obvious Disco Elysium inspiration for the voices. It was something where it was just like, I was stumped on that problem of, all right, sure, like, yeah, the core concept when we first did the demo, and the game became something so much bigger beyond that, was just like, all right, yeah, you're ambiguously tasked to, deal with someone who is dangerous because she is a reflection of what other people think they are, which is why you're not given information on it. And so obviously quickly ran into the stumbling block of like, okay, but like how exactly do we know what the player's thinking there? And then the disco voices popped into my head. I was like, oh yeah, if there is some sort of internalized dialogue that's both you and separate from you, that addresses it, and then we can react to it more smoothly. Other sources of inspiration that I guess you can speak more vaguely on. In terms of games, I greatly enjoyed the Stanley Parable when it first came out. I feel like its influence is noticeable here too. Deeply enjoyed Soma, which is maybe a less obvious influence, but it's there.
Of all time.
Yeah,
absolutely, same here.
And then there's a lot of non-games media that influences us. Things that come to mind, there's some Neon Genesis Evangelion in here, there's some Madoka Magica in here. What are other things that I like?
Think you said Florence and the Machine.
Yeah, there's some Florence and the Machine in here. There's a lot of,
because why not?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of Bruce Springsteen and Scarlet Hollow, and there's a lot of Florence and the Machine and Slay the Princess.
That's incredible. What kind of stuff doesn't or is on the cutting room floor for a game like this? Like, what scenarios do you say, like, you know what, let's not include this, or this pathway isn't going to fit, or this ending or line of decision making isn't going to work out? Like, were there stuff that you just like you didn't want to put in, or you couldn't put in, or just had a second, let's not include that kind of a thing?
I think everything made it in. Like,
wow.
There are some things though where it's like we kind of had a branch with a big question mark on it of just like, is this going to work out? And then like when we got there, we realized that no, there's no direction that we could like take this branch. Like this one will have to end here. It's the natural conclusion. If it goes on any further, then it's just going to drag on, not feel fun or interesting, and not actually like lead to any satisfying conclusions.
Yeah.
And those were like, I wouldn't even count them as cut because they never really existed in the first place. It was more just like part of the structure.
The concept of them existed. So it's like, I would say less cuts and more rewrites.
Got it.
I think that it's like, oftentimes when you're planning out a narrative like this, you have sweeping ideas of exactly how it'll go in your head, and then you get to writing the actual scene, and then you realize that, oh, the original idea is cool as a concept, and it is wildly unfun to play. So we're gonna axe this and figure out a better, more engaging interpretation there. Right? It's like something at the end of every route that we want to leave people with is kind of this feeling of, oh, I want even more.
Yeah, I want more time. How could
I feel like that is both deeply thematically relevant to the game, and also like I think in general that's the ideal place to leave things. You leave them when people are often at their most satisfied. That satisfaction blends with anticipation, but you resolve it and you move on to the next thing. Speaking very vaguely here. Like, I'm okay with the chapter 1 spoilers, but I think
Yeah,
beyond that,
but
I'm just
no,
like,
most definitely.
riddles.
What does a script like this game look like? Because I was like really shocked by how when you're prompted to make a choice, it's like not just two, there's like 5 or 6 things that sometimes like there's so many things you can comb through. So how do you manage
Mhm.
all that choice and then branching off of those choices, which have their own branches? What does that look
Mhm.
like on a piece of paper or in a document? How do you manage all of that?
A very meticulous filing structure, and then enough that sits in our own heads that when people look at the files, it hurts a little.
Uh-huh. Um, so let's talk to the process more because I know that Abby is more in you're the sole artist. Are you like you're just 100% doing the artwork? How does the
Yep.
workflow look like? Is it the script and then you're drawing the pieces to kind of go along with that, or are you working on things and that can then influence or inform where the script should be going in some way? What does that piece look like for you guys?
We work on some story stuff together, like concepts, so that things like basic backgrounds, because some of the backgrounds change that are
Mhm.
very like thematically important. But Tony writes the script, and then we go over the script together. We iron it out, and then Tony comes up with a list of all of the images where like something different happens, and then I just
Mhm.
have to go and draw all of them.
Yeah.
So it's very labor intensive.
This is very different than our other game where Abby writes the full first draft of the script, and
Oh wow.
then so it's like she on that one, she knows all of the art she wants to draw.
Yeah.
And
She's
then
writing the damn
I
thing.
get that's yeah. And then I get that script, and then I turn it, I add more gaminess to it. So
Mm.
like I'll extend the menus, I'll add like more relationship value dependent dialogue. I'll do my round of edits like she did her round of edits on Slay the Princess, and I'll make some additions. But this one was definitely harder where the ideas I had to use words to describe things, and I'm not a very visual thinker. You can't tell, so much of the script is just a bunch of voices yelling at each other in the woods.
Yeah. Some of my edits were just like, this physically will not work. She has already slammed the door. She cannot then grab you afterwards. The door has been slammed. So just little action continuity things, really. And of course, descriptions of things. I love descriptions. Love to
Abby got
describe.
to describe all the rooms in this.
Man, it has such a like old school, like I got like Shadowgate vibes a little bit. Like just when you walk into a space and you just here's where you are, you see this on the table, there's this against the wall. I was like, oh, this just feels good. It's like
Oh,
it's
wonderful.
it's so accessible too. It's I can just sit there and like not worry about like 10,000 elements and menus. It's just you in the game and the choices you make. And it's such a joy for it to be that simple.
Oh,
And yet there's all this complexity in that simplicity, which is just insane as you unravel it
I think
there's
like an onion,
that's so good to hear.
each stinky
I
layer
think
as you go deeper.
I think there's a pitfall that a lot of people run into with choice-driven narrative games,
Mhm.
especially visual novels, where, like, you know, sometimes visual novels get described as not games. And sometimes people, when they make visual novels,
To that idea.
but they hold on to that, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, what I have to do is I have to make it a game. I have to add things that make it a game and it'll work. And I think something that's been really successful for us was when we first started work on Scarlet Hollow, we knew immediately, no, we're not doing that. where we have only so many resources. It's not going to be a mini game. We're not adding fishing or what have you. We're just going to spend all of the resources we have on making player choice more reactive and broader. I think it's worked very well for us.
Listen, the idea of what a game is so broad. If you can have a game where you're playing as a goose that fucks with people, anything,
Great game.
amazing game. Anything is a game at this point. I think all bets are off. I think, it's not a, we used to have ideas like there should be a high score and power-ups and lives and all these systems of what define the traditional game, but we've shed that a long time ago as the tools became more available to the mass public who have creativity in here and allow them to express that in some way with a small budget or a big budget, one person, two person teams. The term game is evolved.
It's an art form, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's always been an art form, I feel. And this game is, again, it's art. It's literally and figuratively art. Because you can look at it, but this is just gorgeous hand-drawn, stuff. And then you're reading it. It's like, this is like poetry right over here. So it's like, it's art through and through. Do you guys just have like the best relationship ever? You both love horror and you make games for a living.
Yes.
Is it as amazing as I think it is? Should I convince my fiance to stop being
so much.
an
10
accountant?
out of 10. We're very happy. The best part, so like Abby, before we started working on games, was a professional graphic novelist for 7.
I think it was 7 before
7 years.
Games.
7 years.
Damn,
And
7 years.
Her deadlines were so painful for me to sit through because it's like comics are exceptionally brutal in terms of how quickly you have to churn things out on certain deadlines, and it's like
I'm used to this stuff. The reason I'm able to do this for games is as a cartoonist, I'm very used to having to put in a lot of work very quickly on something someone's going to look at for 2 seconds. So anyway.
But she like had a couple times where it was like, here's 2 months of crunch where she works 16 hours a day. And I was just sitting around sad and lonely. But now we do our giant crunch together.
Yeah, you can be sad and lonely.
Well, we're not sad and lonely then. We're just busy.
Turn to each other and be like, this sucks. And have the other one be like, you're so right.
We did this to ourselves.
Who did this? It's a question we ask ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
What is something?
But we're our own bosses, so we can go to the gym when nobody's there.
When we are able to leave the house and not on a 16-hour crunch every day.
Most of the time.
It is most of the time. Usually
we just have a
weeks.
couple bad months a year, I feel. Then we have a very nice rest of the year.
Right. And we get to spend it together.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to AAA game development, you have like 10 months out of the year, maybe, and that's like crunch all the way through.
Right.
And maybe your game won't even do so well.
Oh god.
But you guys,
the workers own our studio.
What is something that you've learned about each other while working on a project like this? Because again, it's it's the hero and the princess. I can draw between you both the parallel, but what did you learn about yourselves in writing this, in creating the artwork for it? Like, what went through your minds as you're putting this crazy little?
Laid us both bare to each other in so many ways. Of just, we know each other so well now as a result of this. For one thing, I learned Tony is an incredible poet. Like a lot of this game is poetry. Yeah. I definitely have learned my own artistic limitations and where my strengths lie, and where I start to see where I am unable to do things. I'm not very good at like abstract art in general, but I've had to.
There's so much of it in this game.
So much, and I would just be like, Tony, what do you want me to do for this part where it just describes? I can't say it because it's spoilers, but there was this one part in the game that was it was the worst for me to work on because I was just like, I don't know what the fuck I should do for this. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
I've been cursing the whole time. What the fuck are you talking about?
What if the rules are different for me?
Why would they be different for you? I can curse, but you can't. This is my show. Watch the podcast.
Yeah, that's host privilege.
Don't be rude.
I learned that Abby does not like drawing complicated fight scenes. That's something I learned about her on this project.
Yeah, Tony's two favorite things: complicated fight sequences with many sentences that are just you exchange a flurry of blows, and I'm like, I have to draw those.
You have to draw, and you did a great job exchanging the flurry of blows.
Thank you.
Look, my main hobby activity growing up was martial arts, so I need the fights. She does need to knee you in the face.
So that's
drawing fighting from a first person, really a new thing, and not as easy as drawing.
I feel like the description of action sequences is like one of those things where we had to go back and forth with each other the most on editing, because like I for whatever reason I always have an inclination to write them extremely technical in a way that's probably only interesting to people who have done a lot of like training in that stuff. And then Abby's like, this is no. And then she'll rewrite it and I'll be like, but this is wrong. That wouldn't work.
But would a British narrator describe
no, obviously not, which is why
nice touch, I must
always
say.
wound up somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Now, what is that like for you, Tony? Because you know, she's the artist, but as you're writing this out, there's an image in your brain that exists as you're, you know, creating the story. Have there been moments where it's like, I said a flurry of fists, and this feels more like a hail that you've given me? Can you just go back and I feel like you're not giving me the full flurry here.
This becomes more of a thing for the horror elements where I mean, I'm sure you've seen some grotesque imagery by now.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, when I first wrote this, it was supposed to be a little goofy, a little cute, and then Abby, you know, I made the script, gave it to Abby. She returned some absolutely horrifying art, and then it was like, oh yeah, sure, this is way darker than what I originally imagined, but this is what we're making, and isn't that like a fun little marriage of our perspectives? the horrific body horror with my little goof. Not that there's
yeah, you've got that existential horror, so
right. That's the me spook part in this one.
But that's a beautiful thing, though. I feel like, you know, if you're imagining it one way, and then Abby's turns out some, you know, even more grotesque, better version of how you ever imagined it, that's like a win-win. That's
I
like,
totally agree. I mean, I think that's
so much better.
I think something that's so important when you're making stuff is like being able to find the right people where you can all roughly hold a vision together, but you can also trust each other with different pieces where it's like you just give something to someone and then you let them do what they want to do with it, and then them getting to contribute that part of themselves makes the whole a lot better. Like that's the case with the music in the game a lot, where it's like for almost none of these tracks did we go to Brandon and be like, you need to use these instruments in this time signature and it should sound exactly like this. It would always start with just like, here's the vibe. Here's what happens in this part of the story. Here's the vibe. Here's the emotions we want to capture. And then he would figure something out and he would send it over. And 99% of the time, it's just like completely different direction than we originally imagined, but also so much better than we could have possibly imagined, because that's his talent, right? His talent is just figuring out how to put these feelings into sound.
Yeah, and for this project, he had to do 50 tracks with the same motif, basically, through the whole game, but have them all sound different.
And
so
he did it.
He really
better
did
win
it.
some awards this year.
Yeah, he knocked it out of the park.
I mean, between the music and the art and the writing, I feel like all the three pillars are just crushing on every single
Thank
level.
you so much.
Again,
thank
like
you.
I don't want to gush a lot. Like I just played this thing and I want to play more, but we're almost at the end, which is great for me because I get to go back and play. And we're done chatting. Before
Yay.
we
Oh
move
yeah.
on to rapid fire, which is one of my best parts of the show, what do you expect or think players should feel after they've had a nice session with Slay the Princess? They put it down for the night. What do you think they should
We have
be thinking?
answers to those questions, but those are not answers we will give. This is a deeply
Ah,
personal experience,
mm,
and I wouldn't want to possibly bias anyone in what they
I
take
love
away
it.
from it.
Such a good answer. I hate you. God damn it. All right. It is now time for my favorite part of the show. I mean, this is all my favorite part of the show, just shooting the shit, talking about how games are made. It is time for rapid fire, where I ask you both just some silly questions. And since I have two guests today, I get to ask one questions about the other. So it's be a lot of fun.
Whoa, we're doing that love
So
The
test thing or
newlywed
whatever.
scare.
yeah,
Oh
right.
no.
It's not. So I've been seeing this make the rounds on social media lately. So I'm going to ask you both the same question, but I'm going to ask Tony first, and Abby can think about her answer while he's answering. So Tony, if Kirby came around and inhaled Abby and swallowed her and took her abilities, what power would he gain?
Art. The power of endless art.
Oh my
More
god.
art than you could possibly imagine.
I think
A
there's an
hand that
actual
never stops
Kirby, there's a
moving.
draw ability. Is that right? That could be a thing where he doodles like
I don't
something.
know.
And
I haven't done a Kirby, unfortunately.
never in your life?
Um,
I first of all, it's like the weirdest way of saying I haven't played. I haven't done a Kirby. That was just like I love you more now than I did like 10 seconds ago. All right, so
love to
Abby.
hear it. But
Same.
yeah,
Yeah, that's accurate. Oh, for Tony.
Yeah, so Kirby inhales Tony.
Mhm.
What power does he get after he's inhaled
Oh.
Tony? I haven't done a Kirby. It's the quote of the show.
you had a while to think about this, Abby.
Well, I was not thinking the right stuff. I was distracted. I think this is so lame. Multitasking and project development. I'm sorry, Tony. I'm so sorry. It's
Listen,
so boring.
Kirby could
But
use
you're
some of
really
that.
good
Middle management Kirby has
Yes.
entered the chat.
at encouraging people and
Thank
keeping
you.
a bunch of shit straight at once. Which
This
is so
Oh my
one
important
pushed
God.
me
what
to
your
my
job
limits.
is. So, yeah, so you're able to keep all these little threads in your head, and that's really important.
And they're
So,
all
yeah,
leaving now, and I've never felt better.
it's like a mega mind situation. Kirby got real good at stuff.
You know, I asked this question to one of my colleagues at work, and he just said to me over Slack, alcoholism.
No, that's so sad.
I was just, is anything okay? Do you need to talk? What is going on?
Call for help.
Abby, if you could erase from your memory a game that you loved and experience it again for the first time, what game would that be?
Oh man,
You think
I
on
think it
this
would
too,
probably
Tony?
have to be Soma. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
know we already mentioned it, but Soma's just so
Listen,
good, and I
Soma
really,
is
really
just
loved
too.
it.
We don't deserve Soma. That's what I've come to learn about that game. It's just too good for
It's
this world.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love that. However many hours it took experience back.
It's like, it's a great game when you just watch like 20-hour deep dive like analysis videos of a
Yeah.
game. That's how you
Yeah.
know it did something to your brain. You can't stop hearing more about it. I fucking love that game.
Yeah, just tell me the plot again, please, please, over and over.
By the
so
way,
I can
I
keep
totally
feeling
foresee
it.
that for this game because there's again the layers are so deep. It's I can imagine like here's what this represents. Here's what this is referring to. And I can't wait. So Tony, what about you? What game would you Thanos snap out of your memory?
Slay the Princess, easy.
So that you can actually
you
play
Yes, I
it.
pick
can
your
actually
own
play it.
We
game.
can't play it.
Yeah, no, that's not. That's the ideal one to pick. The great tragedy of making art is that you never get to experience it the way other people do.
My cursor is like hovering over the
And
end
yet-
call button.
And yet you are making it for yourself.
Yes, you
like,
are.
I know whenever I
And
make
isn't
something,
that tragedy that you make something for yourself that you can never have?
I shouldn't have called you a poet. That's my own goddamn fault at this point. I have no one to blame but myself.
No, I
Tony,
feel. I mean, I feel extremely strongly about that. Like for both of our games,
Yeah.
that just like there is so much baggage that comes with developing something that like you always see the seams. You always go in like every single scene. Like you can only view them through the lens of everything you know. So you can't possibly know what it's like to experience it as someone who is just starting and has no idea what's going on. I'd like to know that.
Yeah. Tony, if Abby were a professional wrestler, what would her name be?
Abby Mon. And she would dress like a Digimon.
Oh my god.
I couldn't think of something better than your first name.
We'll take it. We'll accept.
It's been a long day.
Now I'm gonna ask you a different question, Abby. Abby,
Okay.
if you could pick any song to play every time Tony walked into a room, what song would that be?
Oh my god. What songs exist?
You forget every song that ever
I
existed.
forgot all the songs. It's hold on. It's a Bruce Springsteen song.
I forgot all the songs.
It would be a Bruce Springsteen song. Tony, any hits?
I can't help you with that.
Oh man.
I love it.
The one that's Tony's favorite.
Someone's not from New Jersey.
I don't know them all by heart. Oh god, this is what I get. Well, that's the best I could do.
All right. Something off of the greatest hits of Bruce Springsteen.
I don't have any
That's-
jokes. I got no jokes.
Tony, would you rather have all gold teeth or have half of your teeth missing?
That sucks. All gold. This is the real gold, right?
Real gold.
Like there's value. There's
Yes,
value in
yes,
this.
there's
teeth?
value in them
Yeah,
teeth.
yeah, all right. Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Abby, do you think you would, if you were challenged to a rap battle or a dance battle, which would you win?
Dance battle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, much better. I don't know how people do rapping. I don't understand it. They just stand up there and make stuff up, but it rhymes.
Yeah.
It just comes out that way.
I've never understood that.
You can't even name a
I don't
song. They're
understand.
making songs up on the fly.
Yeah, these are two different skill levels. So
Oh my god. Tony, let's say it's the wee hours of the night. It's past
Mhm.
most people's bedtime. And the phone rings.
Mhm.
It's the local authorities.
Mhm.
We have your wife. She's under arrest. What crime did Abby commit?
Mm. She like profusely apologized to someone for something she didn't do so much that they thought she committed a crime.
yeah, that makes sense.
She was so apologetic it was borderline harassment, and that's why we had her arrested.
That checks out. Yeah. They just were convinced. I must be guilty of something if I have so much to apologize for.
Abby, would you rather watch for the rest of your life every movie and TV show at half speed or double speed?
Double speed. I don't
Double
have
speed.
time.
There's
If-
people
my
who
time
do
is
that
very
with all the
important.
videos they watch anyways. I
Right.
don't know why they do it.
Yeah, I'll
but
just
I'm
shift
aware of
into
them.
chipmunk zone. I'm in the chipmunk universe now, and that's fine.
It's so efficient.
It's very efficient. I have stuff to do.
Now, if I pick half speed, do
Mhm.
they multiply against each other if we watch something together?
Now you're just why do you gotta go like the big brain route with the question? This is like, if I sell all my gold teeth, can I get real teeth put in their place? Like, let's see. You have a lot of hair in your head, Abby. Would you rather have your hair always be wet or your socks always be wet?
My socks always be wet.
Socks always
That way,
be
at
wet.
least I could be presentable in public. I can't go outside with my hair wet.
Hmm.
People will know that I bathe and that I've done it recently. They'll know too much about me. Whereas if I'm
Yes,
just sloshing around everywhere, getting trench foot,
I
having my toes
know
get
Wearing
cranky,
socks.
that when I
I'll
leave
just
the
stop wearing
house,
socks, not a problem.
people should not assume that I have bathed. I don't want to. I don't want to be putting that out into the world.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
It's
They'll think you're
humanizing.
recently naked and
Mm,
wet.
and wet.
So,
Horrifying
very
imagery.
embarrassing. Yes.
Um, Tony, if you are what you eat, what are you?
I am lab engineered meat substitutes.
So, some sort of soy product or
Or perhaps a pea
plant-based.
product. Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
like some sort of blend of
Mm.
pea protein,
Mm.
soy and
Mhm.
vital wheat gluten, maybe with a bit of yeast.
A little bit of yeast. All right. Okay. I got little. I may throw up a little bit. But it's that's a good point, because I'm guessing you don't consume any meat products. Is that why?
No, vegetarian.
See, I respect that, because that just means you're leaving more for someone like me to consume. And I eat a lot of meat, and knowing that there's someone out there that's like, you know what, I'm gonna eat less, so Andy can be an animal and consume like so much meat. That means a lot to me.
It's all about the balance, right?
Let's see. I got a few more to ask you guys. You guys know I assume you know the Ninja Turtles. You know Krang?
I'm familiar.
I'm vaguely aware of them.
Are you vaguely aware? Who's the robot body and who's the brain? Where am I putting both of you? Who's what? Who's like the big brutish robot guy, and who's like
They
little?
have that in Ninja Turtles?
This Krang.
Yeah, you know
that little
Krang,
goo who
big
lives in the
robot,
tummy.
and the little pink brain
No.
thing, alien guy in the middle.
This is
We are
beyond me.
equals. We reject this. We are both equally one half of the little goo and one half of the big
The little
robot.
goo. I love it. Tony, if you could have a job, any job that doesn't exist, what would that job be? Any silly job that doesn't exist. It would be a legit, like, paying job.
I know what
What
your
would it
job
be?
would be.
What would it be?
Reading niche internet drama for a living. Checking in on strange people on the internet.
For
Reading
real?
all of the things they have to say.
It's so good.
Yeah,
though,
I would be
right?
one of those. I would be one of those like internet drama YouTubers, but I
Uh-huh.
would never post. I would just have a Patreon that keeps giving me money to absorb the drama.
To just go read it.
Just go
Not
read
even
it.
to record it, just to know about it. Tony's a void starer, so
In another life, I would have gotten a doctorate in studying waifus as a cultural phenomenon. I could feel that branch from back when
Oh
I was
my
in
God.
college.
You guys are you're in Jersey? Is that where you're located? Where are you
Oh, we're in
guys?
Canada. We're in Toronto.
I-
I'm
I
from
got-
New Jersey.
I gotta come. I gotta drink with you both, because I feel like like I have met a lot of people on this show, and everyone's an absolute joy and a pleasure to speak to, but the energy I'm getting from both of you is just so wholesome that I need to like buy
Aw.
you all the beers
Why,
and all
thank you.
all the
Thank you
maple
very
syrup
much.
that
You're
I
a
can
very good
afford.
interviewer. These have been great questions. It's
Yeah.
really fun.
Oh, stop. Tony, would you rather have shoes made of Lego or clothes made of kiwi? Like kiwi the fruit, prickly fruit.
So when you say have, I assume I must wear.
It's you can't just see it. That's a choice. It's a would you rather. This
I
is
mean,
the options
it's
we've
gotta
locked
be
you
the
into.
Kiwi one, right? Can't walk around in Legos all the time.
I mean, you'd get used to it after you lose all feeling
I
at the
could
bottom of your
anyone
feet.
get used to that?
Your feet will just mold to fit the Lego things, and then it won't hurt you.
The Lego is a conceptual entity that exists to always cause optimal foot pain. If you adapt to what it does to you, it just causes more. And on it goes forever.
It's that Little Mermaid situation, trading your sea legs for
For
Lego
ouchies.
shoes. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Abby, what is a first world problem you have?
I have no problems. Everything's perfect.
Everything's
No, it's that my
sunshine and
cat pees on the
cookies.
floor every day.
The cat pees on the
My
floor
cat
every
pees on
day.
the floor every day.
Every day.
That's my biggest problem in my life.
Wait, only the pee?
Well, only the pee.
So she'll poop in
Every
the litter
now,
box
well,
and
okay,
we'll be
I would
fine.
Yeah. And then
But-
she'll pee
And
on the
then she'll
floor.
piss on the floor.
And
I don't
she knows
understand
that
it.
we don't like it. Like, if we're in the room, she'll like keep glancing back at us and just being like, are you really watching, or can I go on the floor? Which is
She's
where I like to
doing-
go. I keep the litter box pristine.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the problem is. Anyway, she's destroying the floors. I clean it up
Abby,
as
I'm
soon
here
as it's
saying
there.
things on podcasts.
It's okay. No one. In our
Listen,
house is gonna do
just to
that.
put things in perspective, I've had a guest use the bathroom during the interview. There was like
Sound
there was
on
like
and
there was like
everything?
a bladder problem, some sort of it was a medical issue, and he was like, "Listen, if I have to stop for a piss, it's gonna happen." And he legit took a whiz during the show. High quality
You
content.
gotta do what you gotta
Respect.
do.
High quality
Mhm.
content.
Respect.
Let's see. Tony, what chore do you dread doing the most?
Probably cleaning up the cat piss.
It's mostly my
Yeah,
job.
yeah. I mean, we
We have one
We've
problem in our
decided.
lives.
Yes,
And
cleaning
it's
the
the cat peeing
piss.
on the floor.
Oh my god. All right, I'm gonna ask you guys two more
Yeah.
questions,
Look,
and because I
it's-
could really like I'm looking at the
Sure.
clock and I'm like we're already past an hour, but I could probably do this for another 10 hours because I love you both so much at this point.
Oh, thank you.
So sweet. All right, let's see. How can we? I want to ask two really good questions to sort of end this thing. Well, it is spooky season. It is horror month. So, Abby, what scares you? What makes you afraid? What gives you fear?
The moment when at night all of the lights go off and I hear a sound, any sound.
Oh my god.
Who knows what it is, but it's
Uh-huh.
always the worst thing I could possibly imagine.
Because it is.
So, yeah, it always is. That's definitely where I feel the most actual fear.
Mhm.
Like if a person stabs me on the street, I've been stabbed. There's solutions to that.
Correct.
And I know where I'm going from there, you know, of just
Fair.
like, okay, well, I've been stabbed. I go to the hospital. Who knows what happens then, but probably not death if it's just one. But then with the unknown of the
Mhm.
lights are off and there is a sound in my house and it's
Mhm.
probably nothing. But what if it isn't nothing? That's what really gets me.
You
and
see,
then
and
I
I-
have to like make sure that my legs aren't outside of the covers in case it's some kind of a ghoul. So
Just trying to tickle you for some reason. Yeah, and I have a dog. So like when he hears the noise that I also hear, he goes into full blown like you're about to be murdered, get the bat. That's the level of
God.
urgency from his little barks.
dogs are so unhelpful with noises. They'll really just double down with you
Yeah.
and be like, that was a weird sound.
Yeah.
And it's probably death coming for
We
us.
should go check it out. Get up. What about you, Tony? What scares you?
being known. Being known.
Bad news for you.
Oh yeah, no,
Bad
I
news.
picked a lovely job for that. No, but I mean, like part of the job is about confronting that. I think everyone's scared to be known. If you want a more fun answer, the clowns and the ocean.
The ocean is an incredible answer, because the ocean is a thing that's here. It's part of our lives, and we don't know what is like in there, man. For a great
And
majority
there's
of
so
it,
much stuff in there.
there's so much of it. That should be
And
your
even the
next game.
stuff you can't see. They've got awful parasites in the ocean, just chock full of them.
Chock full of parasites. All right, and then the last question I want to ask you both, and you can both think about this. I'm going to ask Abby first. If you were given an opportunity to work with any game studio and bring back a forgotten franchise or an IP, or even just they were saying, hey, Abby, we want you to be art director on the sequel for so and so or the reboot of so and so, what game comes to mind first?
So I am not a big gamer.
Okay, but you do know of the games. You've played some, I imagine.
I'm familiar with the games.
Yes.
Well, Clive Barker used to work in video games.
Yes.
I was wondering if you would go for
Undying.
I'm going for that one, yes.
Sure.
I'd like to work with Clive Barker. Yeah, to bring back that, but like more in line with his vision, less kind of a it's like Resident Evil, it's a shooter, you know, like just kind of going for something that's more you know, like the kind of stuff that we make.
Yes.
But with
oh my god.
much more flesh kingdoms. Love that. Anyway.
I gotta like see now. Here's my plan for tonight, and I'm stalling to give Tony some time to think about his answer.
Oh, I have an answer.
Oh,
but
you
go
do.
ahead.
I'm gonna legit, when we're done, I'm gonna walk into the living room, pour like a glass of bourbon, Hellraiser on the screen, and then play Slay the Princess into the wee hours of the night.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
And Tony, what about you? What game comes to mind? What IP or franchise?
So I'm going to, similarly to Abby, I'm going to pick a man rather than a game.
Okay.
And I would like to be one of those guys where look, Hideo Kojima collects guys to take photos of with him.
He does.
I want to appear on Hideo Kojima's Twitter feed as just like an uncaptioned photo. Look, we're hanging out. That's all.
That could also be the job that doesn't exist that you have.
Right.
You're just I'm the guy in Kojima's pictures.
And I'd like to go to one of those movies that he goes to see where he'll just do a tweet afterwards being like, watched Midsummer. Doesn't elaborate, but it's like just a photo, a selfie of him in an empty movie theater. Watch Midsummer.
Yeah. No analysis, no review, no anything.
Love it.
Did you play Death Stranding? Do you like?
I started it and loved what I played, and then I got sucked into work hell for Slay the Princess. So it's on my. I've got like this giant list of things to play now that I'm finally free. So it's like Baldur's Gate 3 is at the top of that list.
Talk about games with choice in them. That's gonna consume your life, Baldur's Gate 3, by the way.
Oh yeah. I am so looking forward to having my life consumed by something. And then like finishing Death Stranding is also
God, that game.
It's so cinematic. It's so good.
It's a game where, again, like you don't think delivering packages to people would be like a fun experience, but just the world he created and the characters and just the whole vibe.
Yeah,
it's just so surreal, and we're getting a part 2, and I'm so excited about that. All right, that's gonna do it, kids. That was a lot of fun. I always say that, but this was more fun. I've had a long ass week and it's only fucking Tuesday, and this has been great. Sure. I really needed this, and seeing your guys' game do so well, getting so many great reviews, I cannot recommend it enough. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for doing what I love doing. It's like playing awesome games, and you guys are making those awesome games. So thank you. And before we say goodbye, the air is yours. You want to plug any social media? I'll put links in all the areas
Yeah,
that are supposed to go,
sure.
but whatever you want to pitch or promote, go for it. It's all yours. Free ad
Play our
space.
video games.
Play our video games.
Play our
That's the
games.
big one. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Join our
Alright.
Discord if you want to talk with like-minded individuals about
Awesome.
the games that you've now played because we told you to do it. So
I'll do a plug.
Do it.
On the page for Scarlet Hollow, we've got some bundles with games from other devs that we're quite fond of. So maybe check out those bundles.
Nice.
We've got one with Meredith Grand's, who's another cartoonist, Perfect Tides, which is a deeply underrated gem that I wish more people would play.
Mhm.
We also have a fun monster romance bundle with Cooking Companions and Sucker for Love, which are also both great.
Sucker for Love's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. See, this is why I like hate this show. It's I get to meet amazing people, hear their story. It's like, oh, here's spend more money on these other things. And
it's an endless rabbit
that's
hole.
just, part of the burden I have to shoulder when I do this show. Well, thank you
There
both,
you go.
Abby and Tony. You guys have been an absolute delight. The game is out right now, listener. That's my
Sure
eyes
is.
in that camera. Go buy it. It doesn't even cost that much. It's like $16, I think, on Steam. So like, don't eat a
Something
meal
like that.
for a day, or like, don't drink coffee for 2 days. And buy a really fun game. It's
Yeah.
going to give you
This will
endless.
nourish you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Buy one less avocado toast.
Yes.
That's still a thing we talk about.
I think so. Maybe. I don't know. I do love a good avocado
I've never
toast,
bought
though.
an avocado toast.
I was addicted
Bad
to them
millennial over here.
like 2 summers ago. $20. I would get 2 of them. So $40. And I could just walk down to the corner store, got some bread, and had some patience. And let those avocados get nice and ripe. But no. But I've learned, because my bank really felt that. But again, listeners, go play a really good game. It'll nourish the soul. That's what it'll do. That's Slay the Princess.
Thank you so much.
This is Black Tabby Games. This is Andy from Dual Screens. Thank you so much for listening, for being here. Happy Halloween. And as always, please be excellent to each other.